I was watching a Mgtow video and someone described Mgtow monks as being a form of austerity. And I don't quite agree with that because austerity implies that you're punishing yourself or you're limiting yourself from doing what you want. I don't see being a Mgtow monk as punishing. I do see it as a form of discipline. And I don't see it as a form of denying yourself happiness or denying yourself pleasure. Quite the contrary. I'm a Mgtow monk because it makes me happy. When you're with women, you're put through this emotional roller coaster. This is what women do. The woman I was with that basically had the strongest impact on me, she was this Irish girl, very, very beautiful, very good looking, white skin, dark brunette hair. She was very manipulative, put me through all kinds of emotional roller coasters, and basically the sex was amazing. She lied to me constantly. At the time I didn't know what was going on, but in retrospect it was pretty obvious. She lied to me constantly about all kinds of things. She did this thing where a lot of girls do, where she'll find out what kind of girl you like and then pretend to be that girl. She ended up sort of scamming me to pay for her tuition. So I ended up giving her $1,400 to help pay for her tuition. And in the grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of money. If you consider the number of times we had sex, it's really cheaper than a prostitute. But at some point she started asking me for money repeatedly, and I started saying no. And at one point, she just ghosted on me. She just completely disappeared. No contact whatsoever. And this was a girl that, you know, the sex was amazing, and she would say stuff like, "Oh, we're best friends," and we did all kinds of things together. We played video games together. We went rock climbing together. Just all kinds of, all that stuff, the bonding and the whatnot. And we would stay up late until like 2 a.m. and just talk about all kinds of things. Talk about our childhood. Talk about our future plans, and she was really the only girl I opened up to. And later I realized that's a big mistake. Is opening up yourself to a woman is a big mistake. And there were some red flags that at the time I had no idea because I was very blue pill. So here's a girl, the sex is great, she's very pretty, and she says we're best friends. How many times have you heard that, oh, my significant other is my best friend? And back then I would be very envious if I heard something like that. I'd be very jealous. But now I know that's really just all a game. It's all really just a con game. And there were red flags, like she would disappear for several days at a time. Like we were texting and seeing each other daily, but there would be stretches where, up to a week she would just completely disappear. And then after coming back, she would make some lame excuse like, "Oh, my phone broke," and blah blah blah. And at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I just believed everything she said. And she would say stuff like, "Oh, I quit smoking weed," because I told her earlier that, I don't mind if you smoke weed, but I just hope you don't turn into someone who has no life outside of smoking weed. And then a week later, she would say she quit smoking weed, which later on I found out was a lie. And she would say stuff like, "Oh, I changed my major to something more lucrative because a few days earlier I said that a lot of people are graduating from college with useless degrees and with tons of student debt, and then they end up working at Starbucks." So she would play these games and make up these things, and sometimes she would burst into my apartment like crying and then having this crazy story about this crazy stuff. And later on, I would find out that a lot of it wasn't true. So, anyways, the point of the story is women know that men need sex or men want sex. Women know this. They aren't stupid. When women act stupid and act helpless and whatnot, they're just doing it on a purpose to get you to drop your guard. They know that if they act helpless, men will rush to help her. They know this. They know this instinctively. And if she doesn't know it, she's not really a woman. She's probably like a butch woman. She's probably like one of those women who have, like a masculine figure. And their face kind of looks masculine and their hands are kind of masculine. I got this, I work in engineering. And there's a disproportionately low number of women. But the women who are in engineering, there's a disproportionately high number of them who are butch. And they're good at engineering. So I wouldn't be surprised if the same hormones that make her logical and make her rational are the same ones that make her look masculine. So in my view, the more feminine a woman is, the more beautiful she is, the more she's gonna have these feminine traits, such as knowing how to manipulate men. And the point of the story is dating women and having sex with the women. You're basically hooked on this emotional high. You're just like an alcoholic who can't stop drinking, right? PUAs are addicted to chasing pussy. Their hormones are controlling them. They're not controlling their own lives. They're not in the driver's seat of their own lives. And blue pill men who want to get married or who want to stay married, and they think it's their life purpose to protect and provide for women, they're also addicted in a way to their wife's validation. Right? That's why after a divorce or a breakup, the male suicide rate skyrockets. Because most men put their life purpose, in terms of serving women, providing for women and protecting women. And if you take that away, then they feel like their life is purposeless. So where I'm going with this is those emotional highs that you chase is not really happiness. For me, happiness is more along the lines of being productive and having pride in the work that you do. It's more along the lines of, this sounds corny, but being true to yourself and living by principles. It's more along the lines of living a good life and being in the driver's seat and being in control of what you're doing and making the decisions that you want to make and living the life that you want to make. And so since becoming a Mgtow monk, I've started 2 hobbies. Both require learning difficult skills. Both require learning both require getting new tools, new materials, and both require developing these skills through repetition over long periods. And these hobbies are hard. And I'm being vague because I'm just being overly cautious about protecting my identity. But these hobbies are hard, and they require a lot of discipline. And I think being a Mgtow monk is a really good foundation for living a good life. So how can you do what you want when your hormones are in control and you're busy chasing women and trying to please women? How can you live a good life if you're married and your wife nags at you all day long? All the married men in my office, they're like trained puppies. They're basically slaves to their wives. So one guy, he was telling me about his vacations. So he's got a stay-at-home wife, and she plans all the vacations. She chooses where to go, what restaurants to go to, what cruises to go on, what destinations to go to. He doesn't get any say in it. And I asked him, well, why don't you alternate? Why don't you choose every other vacation spot, and she'll choose every other one? I try to bring about a compromise there, which of course is not a compromise because she doesn't work; she just stays at home, and that was his justification. Well, she's bored and she stays home and she has nothing to do, so she just plans vacations. Okay, you work 40 plus hours a week, you work 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week, and she gets to decide how you spend your money. So I had this one guy on my Facebook profile, and he's the CEO of a small tech company. And he'll post a picture of a new SUV, and he'll say, brand new SUV for my beautiful wife because she deserves it. And then right under it, his wife says, oh, I'm in love, in the comments of that picture. And he'll post a picture of him and his wife in a expensive, world-renowned resort. And under it, he'll post something like, oh, I got lucky that night. So he's basically a trained puppy, because his wife is basically training him and saying, no sex for you unless you buy me a new car, no sex for you unless you take me on this expensive vacation. And the other thing is, a lot of people will say, well, being a Mgtow monk is boring. I haven't dated any women in a long time, and it's boring the hell out of me. What do I do? Well, I would reply to that by saying, being bored is not necessarily a bad thing. Being bored means you don't have any crisis in your life. Being bored means you don't have any major stresses in your life. Being bored is a good start. It's a good foundation to build a life. And people will make arguments like, oh, well, men and women are meant to be together. We have a biological instinct to be together, to have sex, to, a man needs to have a woman's companionship. It's in our instinct. And if you are a Mgtow monk, then you're missing out. Well, I have a few things to say about that. First of all, in my previous Mgtow monk video, I explained why associating with women isn't really much of a value. And while it's true that our DNA will essentially drive us through pain and pleasure and through, our biological urges to seek out women, it doesn't mean it's the only instincts that we have. As men, we have the instinct to compete. And so if you're into sports, or if you run a business and you have competitors, these can be very healthy ways for you to pursue your natural instincts. As men, I believe we have the instinct to produce, to be creative, whether it's to do practical things, such as fix a car, or to do aesthetic things, such as artistic creativity. And I think these activities can be vastly fulfilling. These things can be far more fulfilling than sticking your dick in some woman's crotch. And so, by not doing certain things, such as dating women, you have far more time and far more energy and far more money to do the things that you really care about. Because your life is limited and you can't do everything. So if someone said, "Oh, you're not a professional basketball player, you're missing out." And it's like, well, yeah, it's true in the sense that I'm not doing that thing over there, but I'm doing all this stuff over here. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. Right? I took a career in engineering. I didn't take a career in medicine. Oh, I'm missing out. Doctors make a lot of money. I'm missing out. Yeah, technically it's true. I'm not doing that. But who cares? I'm doing what I want to do. So anyways, this has been another off-the-cuff, unscripted video. Just some random thoughts. I don't think Mgtow Monk is about punishing yourself or denying yourself the pleasures of life. Quite the contrary. I think it's about freeing you from being shackled. It's about it's really about putting you in the driver's seat. Right? It's not your urges and your hormones and your needs controlling you and dictating you what you're doing on your weekends and in the evenings. Because I know what it's like to be a PUA. When you're a PUA, all you can think about is getting laid. Oh, gotta get laid. Gotta approach more women. Gotta improve my game. Gotta do this. Gotta do that. It really is an addiction, and you don't need it. You really don't need it. You can be a monk and never touch a woman and never speak to a woman and still live a happy, fulfilling life. There are tons of other pleasures and instincts that you can seek that are not bad for you. I would rather spend all my free time, which is what I do, on my hobbies. Spending time with women is a freaking waste of time. If you really have to do it, just get a prostitute, just get it out of your system. Porn is free. Fleshlight is cheap. Just do it, get it out of your system, and move on. And do what you really want to do. Just get back to living your life. So anyways, I hope this makes sense. It's just me rambling, unscripted. I've tried making scripted videos. I just don't have the time for it. Scripting and editing and taking multiple takes, I don't have time to do that. All my free time is going towards my career and my hobbies. So thank you for listening. Have a good day.